We are live on our end. We're recording this, though. We're recording this, everyone, on Saturday, February 26th, 2022. We usually do these on Sundays, but the big guy over here, Brandon, has a half marathon tomorrow. What an absolute idiot for signing up for a half marathon. I know he's not in shape. I ran like 25 minutes with him when he was in town, and he barely made it through. This is the Sunday Scaries Stock Talk. We're coming to you today. Talk about a little bit about macro, and then we're going to get into Bitfarms. I think this will probably be maybe our second to last Bitcoin mining talks. I think we're going to cover the Valkyrie ETF next week. But yeah, I'm excited. Brandon, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Yeah, like you said, I got the half marathon tomorrow, and I am not really looking forward to it at all. I don't know how I got coerced into doing it. I was going to the gym, lifting, and not running, and somebody started texting me every day for 3 weeks, asking me to do it, and then finally I just gave in. So I guess this is a sign that if you text me and bug me enough, you could get me to do really stupid shit. So I don't know. I mean, might not know this about me, but I am, a former Division I collegiate runner. So, I might be able to handle it here or there, but I haven't ran over 6 miles since 2016, I'd say. So, it's been a little bit. So wish me luck. And I think I'll be all right, but we'll see. I also went golfing today, and I've been drinking since like 9 o'clock this morning. So, the strong survive. I'm a fucking dog, so I'll get through it. And I'm not a fucking puppy, so dogs got to eat. I'll go out and I'll show out. I'll perform.
Yeah, it's all dogs here. I mean, everyone knows Green Candle's dogs, no pups. But he's still drinking. At least you're drinking. Looks like, was that a Claw? At least you're drinking the seltzers.
It's a Celsius this time. I'm trying to get my energy up.
Oh, that's an energy drink.
Pump it up for the stream.
Pump it up for the stream.
I got some twisted teas in the fridge. I just finished drinking a beer, so I've been told that I get a little too drunk on the streams. I don't know, allegedly, but so I decided to tone it down a little bit today, get the energy up, and then I'll get back into drinking in like 30 minutes or so. So
that'd be great. I think you're really setting yourself up for success on for the half marathon tomorrow. I can't tell you the last time I ran 13 miles. It had to be in college. It had to be when we were at Memphis.
I mean, yeah, that's the last time for me. I don't know. I mean, like since college, my mindset was I'm going to run to stay in shape, and I'm not going to run over 4 miles. So I ran 6 miles 2 weeks ago, and then I ran a turkey trot, which was 5 miles, maybe like 2 years ago. And that was basically like the longest I've run. So I don't know. We did what? How far were we running when we were there? Maybe 3.5, 4 or something.
Oh man, when I was doing when you were in town?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was like 4 miles, not even just under 4 miles. That's about what I do. I mean, I really don't think that running the way that we were running in undergrad. I mean, I don't think people fully understand what you do as a distance runner, and I don't think they fully understand that like you run cross country, indoor track, outdoor track, so you're going year round. Our long runs, I mean, I did long runs that were easily 19, 20 miles.
Yeah, I think while I was in college, I never got over 16. But I mean, we were like flying when we were doing those, like we would go out Saturday night, wake up hungover, and run those 16 to 19 miles at like 6:30 to. You were probably doing faster than I was, like 6-minute pace, or pretty damn close to it. So,
well, the thing is too, we'd go on time. So it'd be like, all right, you're going for a 2-hour run, and you'd go on time. You wouldn't even go by mileage, and you'd go out for 2 hours, 2 hours, 10 minutes or something. And who knows? Yeah, you're probably going 20, 21 miles. Man, we used to do that shit. We'd be throwing up at the first 5 miles. You'd be throwing up, shaking off a headache, and it's rough.
And then at the end, we feel great. And then you go home, you sleep for like 5 hours, and then it's all gone. But I don't know. I don't have that 21-year-old liver anymore, so we'll see. I have to be up like and at the line at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So
yikes!
Pray for me to get out there. So
those were simpler times. Let's jump in here. What do we got for macro? I'm trying to think, man. I know there's obviously stuff going on over in Russia and Ukraine, and I think that's kind of clouded everybody's minds. Maybe not clouded, but that's kind of been at the forefront for everything. And I don't know. I think as far as it relates to macro in the U.S. and the stock market in the U.S., like we saw a good pump actually Thursday, Friday. I don't want to brag too much, but my portfolio was up 6% on the week. And I think a lot of it was a little uncertainty about how the U.S. was going to react to this. And if we ultimately end up involving ourselves physically, if we put troops on the ground, I think you got to kiss these rate hikes goodbye. I hate talking about stocks at a time when the world is like potentially plunging into World War III, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about stocks, so we're going to do it. And yeah, our buddy Massa was telling us on Friday that it's basically mathematically impossible for them to keep rates at zero at this point. They have to go up by at least 25 bips. So maybe we'll get 25 bip rate hike. I kind of think that's already been priced in. In fact, I think they maybe priced in a 50 or 75 point hike. And now that this has happened, maybe we saw that pump because people are saying, well, now it's for sure only going to be 25. I could still see them going up 25 in March. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think 25 is on the table. I think that they're going to raise it a little bit and then probably bring it back down. That's kind of my guesstimate as well. What's going to happen? Masa, he's one of our good friends, and he's definitely got a better insight than I do in this. So I tend to believe his opinion on it and everything like that. So, you know, exactly like you're saying, it's kind of tough to talk about stocks when we're like in an impending war. Um, but as far as like the stock market relates, is like, it usually reacts one way or the other. Generally speaking, when there's a war or something like that, the stock prices of a lot of things pump because they think there's a lot of liquidity. And whether you like it or not, there's a lot of money in war, and there's a lot of money to be made for companies and things like that. I mean, if you've seen the movie War Dogs, you kind of understand that movie with Jonah Hill and shit, I can't even think of the other guy's name, but
Dude, I watched the movie like 2 or 3 nights ago.
yeah, I mean, it's a good movie, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's true, right? Like it's like these guys, like they find a niche and they profit significantly off of it, and that's just kind of how it is, right? I mean, there's a lot of money that's going to be printed in or needed in order to go to war. Every military soldier in the United States has like, I think it's like $20,000 worth of equipment at a very minimum, just strapped to them when they're walking around. So, um, it's usually like, all right, well, is everything going to shut down or end? And then that's the stock market closes, or it's like, okay, we're going to war somewhere and the stock market pumps like crazy. So I think the market reacted. It was pretty interesting to me because on Monday, was it, everything tanked right away. And then it started raising up. And then by the end of the day, everything was green. And then throughout the rest of the week, everything was like kind of normally sitting in the green. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case because people are going to think, all right, well, exactly like we were saying at the beginning, they're not going to raise it 50 to 75 basis points, but they're essentially going to do 25 basis points now, which is not quite exactly what they thought. So the 50 to 75 was maybe priced in, and now everything looks cheap to them. So yeah, that's just kind of, I guess, the overall macro view as far as the stock market goes for me, based on this, shitty Russian situation. So, I mean, definitely prayers up to everybody in the Ukraine. I hope everybody out there is staying safe. And, it's just crazy to me. We're seeing a war break out here, and it's all on social media. Like I'm seeing clips. I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm seeing clips all over the internet, Twitter, Instagram, and everything of all this shit going on. And it's crazy.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate. And yeah, I agree. I mean, thoughts and prayers. We see videos of people in Moscow too, the Russian citizenry. And we talked about this with on BTC sessions last night, I believe, or maybe it was on our pod. I can't remember, man. Now we're putting out so much stuff now. It's hard to remember when we talked about different things. But uh, there's massive protests now in Moscow saying we don't want war. It's like, man, the vast majority of people in the Ukraine, for sure, and even in Russia, it looks like there's a good portion of the citizenry that just they don't want war, man. Like it's ridiculous. And so, yeah, thoughts and prayers to everybody involved. And I hope to God that we don't intervene militarily from the U.S. Yeah, hopefully this has some peaceful resolution. It doesn't look likely, but we can always hope for it and see what happens. So, hey,
Yeah,
that's what I've got for macro too. I'm in the same boat. I mentioned that it seems like this is at the forefront of everyone's minds. I'm in that boat too. It's really hard to pay attention to anything else, to be honest. While all this other stuff's going on, I haven't really been on Twitter that much over the last few days, just because we've got so much stuff going on, and I also, it's tough. It's really tough, man. You want to try to get as much information as possible and stay plugged in and develop a good internal filter for like good sources and bad sources. But at the same time, uh, you can get overwhelmed with it. It's interesting, Brandon, right? Because when there's stupid shit going on, you're super plugged in and you're following it really closely. But then when real shit happens, you're like, man, I got to unplug. It's a weird thing where like you want to unplug from social media when real shit's going on, but when stupid nonsense is going on, like Hollywood drama or something, you're like, oh, I'm gonna eat it. It's like,
exactly. But that's the thing. Is like it's stupid nonsense. It's stupid nonsense, and this is like real life shit, right? Like people are dying. Okay, so it's not like the Kim and Kanye stuff where we're like, all right, Kanye's running Skeet Davidson off of Instagram, and like everybody's laughing at that, and it's funny. Even though those are real people's lives and whatever, this is like, all right, well, people are dying, and war is never the answer, at least in my opinion. And it seems like it's really unfortunate, but it seems like we're kind of in that for at least the near future, and hopefully nothing else happens. But it seems like there's also some impending situation with China and Taiwan too. So
yeah, that one. I mean, that one could have some really severe consequences for like semiconductor chip manufacturing. There's already been major supply chain issues with semiconductor chips, especially in the auto industry. And so if China rolls in on Taiwan, well, of course you've got the TSMC, you've got the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturers there, and it's a huge source of electronics, microchips. So that could be bad too, man. Yeah, I think people underestimate how quickly things can spiral out of control, and we hope that we don't see it. Obviously, hey, to bring it on a lighter note, because you mentioned Yay, Netflix. Masa's gonna hate this if he even listens. I don't know if he does or not. Well, this will be a test. We won't tell Masa we talked about it, and we'll see if he mentions it. Netflix has got this genius documentary trilogy about Kanye, and they dropped part 2 last night. It was long. It was like, how long was it? It was like 2 hours or something. I kept thinking it was going to end, and it just kept going. Which I was happy about. It was kind of like The Last Dance. It's what I've been comparing it to, kind of internally. It's like you think it's going to end, and then it keeps going, and it gets better and better and better. You've been watching it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I'm loving it. I'm a big Kanye guy, so I've always got some sort of Kanye shirt that I've owned. I mean, there's a picture of us from college where I had Kanye's face with like gold aviators smoking a cigar. I got like a Yeezy 2020 sweater and like a graduation hoodie and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a big Kanye guy. People know that about me, but yeah, I mean, I'm loving it. The thing I love about it is like, yeah, there's a few things. One, it's like his mom. It really goes into the relationship with her, and it's awesome to see how like his mom just supports him like crazy. Like she knows all his raps, like all that stuff. Even when he dropped out of college, and she's like an English professor and everything like that. And two, just like his self confidence. And that's where I think like a lot of people are missing out, and a lot of people give him this like negative perception and everything like that. Like you got to give the guy credit. I mean, he makes great music, like or whatever you want to say about his personality or his public persona, like whatever. He makes a great product. He's always believed in himself. And like when you can tell, like he's been the same exact person when he had zero fans to who he is now. And it's just like he's on a public stage, and it's a lot of pressure. And when people are dissecting like your every movement and everything like that, like sometimes you do some stupid shit. So I don't know. I love Kanye, and I think like his old music and like just seeing the process of him going through some of that stuff, it's amazing. So I really like it, and I can't wait for the third episode to come out. and Don did too. It's out, but you got to get the SoundCloud link or something. I'm the plug, so if you want it,
I don't condone
DM
that.
me. Yeah.
I don't condone that. Buy Kanye's music, support him, value for value. Everyone knows it. The one quote that I love, Brandon, from part two, I don't know when they quoted him from, but they said it was right after he won the Grammy, I think, his first Grammy, and they said if someone would have told you that or if someone would have told you like 10 years ago that you were going to win a Grammy, would you have believed it? And he said, actually, I was telling people and they didn't believe it. I love that. Yeah, that's like an awesome quote.
Yeah. I also love
yeah,
too that they showed his Grammy speech where, I mean, it's pretty famous. And at the end, he's like, they were asking me, what would you do if you didn't win? And then he's like, I guess we'll never know.
I guess
And he
we'll never
drops it
know.
out and he walks
Yeah.
out. It's amazing.
What an absolute dog. What a savage.
Fucking dogs.
Dude, I love it. It's been good. I seriously do compare it to like The Last Dance. It's that good. And just to see the story of guys like Kanye it's just amazing. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. Waiting for part 3. I think it drops next week. But yeah, all right. Should we jump into Bitfarms here?
Yeah, let's jump into it. All right, I'll kind of go through like a little brief breakdown of Bitfarms, like explain what it is, a little bit of the financials and stuff, and then I'll let you get into your bullish thesis about it. So yeah, Bitfarms is a blockchain infrastructure company. It operates blockchain computing centers that power the global decentralized financial economy of Bitcoin and other altcoins, unfortunately. But Bitfarms provides computing power to Bitcoin, and how it earns money is essentially just earns fees by mining. It's primarily located in Canada, and it uses hydroelectricity. So recently, Bitfarms entered in a $32 million equipment financing agreement with BlockFi, and it's also secured 60,000 new generation miners in 2024. Oh shit!
Get him, Max. Get him,
Fucking
Max.
dogs are out, baby.
Yo, the dogs. Well, Brand's.
All right, yeah. So that's so he's freaking out. Yeah. So then after they were one of the first Bitcoin mining companies to go public in July 2019. And so at the time of this recording, Bitfarms was trading at $3.29 with a range of $2.75 to $9.36, and then a market cap of $615.97 million US dollars. They've posted almost $45 million in revenue, which was up 22% from the last quarter, and almost 560% year over year. So it recorded a record net income of almost 24 million and increased of 13 cents per share. So previous quarters they've lost money, and this is one of the first ones that they've actually gained money. So that's obviously a positive going forward. It's also increased its mining margin from 79 to 82%, which basically is just like how efficient are they becoming in mining. And it's good to see that they are, finding a way to become more efficient. All right, Dan, what do you got for me in the bullish thesis?
Yeah, I hear you. This is one of the difficulties of doing these things. Brandon and I both have dogs, and they're absolute beasts. My dog goes nuts when she sees someone she doesn't like outside. So we're always at risk of getting some barks. But yeah, let's jump into the bullish thesis. So I personally, full disclosure, I am an investor in Bitfarms. I do hold some Bitfarms. I hold an absolute bag actually. So full disclosure there. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But the number one thing I like about Bitfarms is that they've got a global footprint. They're distributed across multiple countries. So it seems like the bulk of what they're doing is in Canada. That's where the bulk of their mining operation is. But then they've also got a mining center in Washington State in the U.S. here, and then they've got one in Paraguay. They also have plans to expand their existing sites in Canada throughout 2022 and add a new site, which should be up and fully operational, I believe, or maybe it's just construction will be done on a site in Argentina. And here's why I like this. And we're seeing it play out in real time in a place like Canada. If you're too concentrated in one location, one country, and that country all of a sudden takes a turn, like up until now, Canada's been they've had a pretty positive attitude towards Bitcoin and the Bitcoin mining industry. But with everything that's happened with these protests, uh, like they went after these Bitcoin wallets pretty hard. And if they start to see Bitcoin as a threat to their traditional financial system, they might turn on the entire industry. And so that's why I love to see Bitfarms taking more of a global approach. And I especially like to see them expanding into the LATAM market, because of course, we've got El Salvador, who's adopted Bitcoin as legal tender. We also have Brazil, who I believe they've maybe kicked around the idea of doing the same. But in any case, a lot of these LATAM countries are bullish on Bitcoin, and they're taking a positive stance towards Bitcoin. So I think it's great that they're expanding into those countries. I think it provides them a little bit more geopolitical and regulatory stability. The second reason I'm bullish is that they've got huge things planned for 2022. So I mentioned before that they're going to finish the construction on their Argentina facility. Now that Argentina facility, along with their Canadian expansions throughout the year, are going to take them to a projected 394 megawatt capacity by the end of the year. That's an increase from 106 megawatt capacity at the end of 2021. So it's it's almost 4x their power capacity. This is going to be massive for them. So I'm looking forward to a huge 2022. They've obviously committed to it. They also went ahead and purchased 1,000 Bitcoin at the beginning of the year. So these people they're committed to growth. They're committed to having a really big 2022. So that makes me bullish in the short term, at least through the next 12 months or so. And then the third reason I've got here is vertical integration and access to cheap energy. And maybe I'm gonna spin this a little bit. So I think 99% of their power comes from hydro, which you had mentioned in describing the company. They're a big hydro company. Uh, Here's what you don't see in their investor presentations. You don't see a bunch of stuff about we're committed to ESG, we're doing all this. Hydro is technically this environmentally friendly thing, but they use it because it's cheap energy. That's why they use it, and that's what I love to see. I've got their last investors presentation here. Securing low cost energy. In Canada, on average, 4 cents per kilowatt on average. In the US, it's 3 cents per kilowatt. In Argentina, it's 2.2 cents per kilowatt. And in Paraguay, it's 3.6 cents per kilowatt. So, like, they're not using it because they're devoted to some ESG narrative. They're using it because they've got access to it, and it's cheap and it's efficient. That's what I like to see. So they've got access to this cheap, efficient energy. And then they've got vertical integration. So when it comes to vertical integration, like they've got a long and successful history of creating infrastructure to have successful mining operations. They also have an electrical contractor that's 100% owned as a subsidiary. So this provides expertise, it lowers site construction costs, and can contribute to revenue. And then they're also a authorized repair center. So they can repair their own equipment. They don't have to, if they've got a machine that's broken, they don't have to send it out, wait for it to come back. They've got an in-house repair lab that they use. So all of this stuff, like I love to see this. I think I was right. I was maybe writing an article about Bitfury uh, last week, or I forget exactly when, but they like do all of their in-house ASIC chip development and things like that. So I love to see it. If these companies can bring things in-house as much as possible, that's what I want to see. Now, Bitfarms isn't, as far as I know, is not creating their own ASIC mining chips. I think they're still purchasing from Bitmain, but they're doing these other things. They've got the electrical contractor down. They've got a repair center down. So yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see in-house development. I want to see them working on, immersion cooling techniques in-house, things like that. So maybe they'll expand into those things, but at the moment, they've still got a bit of vertical integration. So just a quick recap on mine. Global footprint, I love to see it. Big things planned for 2022, and it looks like they're following through on those things. And then vertical integration and access to cheap energy through hydro. That's why I'm bullish on Bitfarms.
Awesome. That's good stuff. So I'm not going to lie to you. It was a little tough for me to come up with some of these bear arguments. I'm not a holder directly of Bitfarms, but I do hold WGMI, which we'll go over next week. It's the ETF, and this is the second largest holding. So that's also something to note as well. Somebody who's spent their entire time like developing an ETF has enough, I guess, enough backing to put this as the second largest holding in that. So also something to kind of be aware of. But as far as my bearish thesis, we kind of discussed the same with HUD 8 last week, but it's a little bit different. The computing power dedicated to altcoins. So currently Bitfarms operates blockchain quote unquote farms that powers various crypto networks such as Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Dash. So, like I kind of stated last week, and I've said this a few times, is that I like to see like newer age companies kind of focus on a single aspect, right? So, granted, they are focusing on mining in general, but I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm a Bitcoin maxi, whatever you want to call me. I do not think that Ethereum, Litecoin, or Dash would be useful to mine. Maybe in the short term, maybe it'll be good, but I would like to see a company like Bitfarms or HUD 8 or Marathon just kind of strictly focus on mining Bitcoin. So that is one negative I see. Another one is in last November, 6 senior managers started selling off like a significant portion of stock. So generally, you kind of see people, when a company IPOs, they have a lot of initial stock, and you'll see a lot of these senior people or something like kind of cash out a bit. But at the same time, you don't see them cash out, a long time later unless they kind of have scheduled cash outs or, there's something that they might know that's coming up on the horizon. So this is kind of worrisome for me because, 6 key insiders are selling stock, and it almost seems like it's somewhat correlated back in November. So maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe some news is about to come out or will come out, or maybe they're not as bullish going forward. But it's definitely something to kind of keep your eye on for sure. And then the last negative point, you kind of mentioned in there that they're expanding into Argentina and some LATAM. But in the near term, what's going on in Canada kind of worries me as well. We've kind of covered this in our macro minute in the past about the Canadian trucking convoy going on. But the Canadian government has started to kind of change its tune, to me at least, on Bitcoin and crypto assets. They were tracking Bitcoiners for encouraging people to donate to these trucking convoys. They were investigating crypto addresses and Bitcoin wallet addresses for people that donated. They were freezing bank accounts. And they were also, notifying authorities about Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase, and Jesse Powell, CEO of Kraken, who were tweeting about self-custody of their crypto assets. So they're not necessarily the most crypto-friendly country or Bitcoin-friendly country at this point. As of late, honestly, they seemed a little bit more friendly in the past. So it's good to see that they're expanding, but in the short term, I would definitely keep an eye out for, the Canadian government uncertainty there. And it's definitely something to look at. So yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, the computing power dedicated to altcoins, senior managers selling stock, and the Canadian government uncertainty are reasons why I would be bearish on Bitfarms. But I also have a question for you. We kind of discussed this a little bit in our pre-show, but I want to get a little bit more of your thought on it because I didn't know if I should include this in the bearish thesis or if like maybe it's bullish or what. But Bitfarms also purchased 1,000 Bitcoin And I thought that was kind of interesting because, as a miner, you obviously obtain Bitcoin. So why would you need to purchase it? Um, but yeah, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as the purchase goes, well, let me touch on the Canadian thing first. So the Canadian having a massive concentration of your hash power in Canada, I think is not a good look right now. Um, it seems like the Canadian government liked this kind of thing for the jobs and the money that it would bring in, the tax revenue it would bring in. But as soon as they figured out that people could actually use this to circumvent their uh, how do you put it mildly, tyrannical control over the financial institutions, then maybe they stopped liking it. So you don't want a huge concentration of your mining equipment located in Canada at the moment. At least that's my opinion. I'm not in the industry, so I can't give you an insider's view of this. But I do love to see them moving into LATAM. I mean, their projections, Brandon, in their latest investors presentation, is that their Argentina farm will almost, I mean, it will basically double, if not more than double, uh, their total megawatt capacity. So, and the energy is cheaper in Argentina than it is in Canada. So I'm huge. Like I think their Argentina facility is going to be massive if they can get that thing up and operational and get mining rigs there by the end of 2022. Now, as far as buying Bitcoin, I think Joey and Len over at the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast interviewed someone from, I think it was Ben Gagnon. I can't really pronounce his last name, Gagnon, I believe. And they asked him the question, but here's the thing, man. If Bitcoin dips relative to what let's say your model has it at, you as a Bitcoin mining company, you have you can either purchase equipment or you can buy Bitcoin, right? And we all know that the vast majority of equipment is kind of on a backlog, right? So 80% market share is owned by Bitmain at the moment. And Bitmain has a backlog. Like Marathon purchased 77,000 miners or something in December. They won't start getting that shipment until June. So let's say Bitfarms has a model that says Bitcoin is going to be priced at, let's say 60,000 in June when we would start to get the miners in. And then we've got to get the mining rigs set up and we've got to make them operational and we've got to figure out the infrastructure, which Bitfarms is good at doing, but it still takes time. So let's say, all right, even if we start getting things in June, they won't be operational until July or August. Well, our model has Bitcoin priced at 60K, twice of what it is now at that point. So why don't we just buy Bitcoin now uh, instead of purchasing the equipment and waiting in this backlog? So, and then there's all this uncertainty in Taiwan too. So, right. And in China. So there's all these things that you have to consider. So I don't see this as bearish at all. I'm assuming that they didn't make this decision lightly. It's not like me waking up and seeing the price and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make a huge buy. I'm gonna whale in today because the price has dipped a little bit." I'm guessing that's not how they operate over there. But yeah, I don't see it as a bearish argument. If you're not a believer in Bitcoin, you probably see this as a bearish argument because they're allocating funds to Bitcoin instead of Bitcoin miners. But you have to understand that there's a huge backlog in these Bitcoin miners at the moment, and it also just points to the importance of things like Intel and Block coming out and saying that they're developing their own miners, because we definitely need more companies working on producing miners. And as I was saying before about Bitfury, not Bitfarms, Bitfury, uh, them developing their own ASIC mining chips in-house is huge for them. I think it's a huge advantage because they're not reliant on Bitmain as much. So yeah, I mean, they bought 1,000 Bitcoin right last month. Bitfarms.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I mean, like you said, I think like, all right, it just means they're bullish on the asset, right? So I'm bullish on the asset. I like to see a company bullish on the asset. So it's good. I just think it's an interesting move. Not something that I definitely didn't expect, especially from like a Bitcoin miner. I'd expect more of like a company that didn't really have too much exposure to Bitcoin to do it. But I mean, like you said, if you believe in it and you think that it's extremely cheaply priced, why wouldn't you? So
Yeah, the other thing too, like it's interesting. What I've been thinking about with a lot of these miners, and I've been poking around with a few people that are in our circle that are super bullish on Bitcoin miners, and I'm trying to figure out like what do I look at? Is it Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Is it in-house development or vertical integration? Is it access to cheap electricity? Is it global footprint? Like what are the things that you should look at when you're evaluating these Bitcoin mining companies? I think it's all of the things I just listed. Um, but then I'm starting to think to myself, like, can you be? So I'll just ask you, Brandon, can you be a Bitcoin bear and still be bullish on a Bitcoin mining company? What do you think?
I find it harder to believe, um, to be honest, because at the same time, it's I mean, like, why? Like, if you don't believe in like the underlying business, it's like, all right, if you think gold's a piece of shit, why would you invest in a gold miner, right? Maybe
Okay,
you think the company there is like, finding something that somebody else isn't. But I think like Bitcoin's a little bit more volatile. There's a lot more bears when it comes to Bitcoin opposed to gold, I would say. And I think that more people are like questioning Bitcoin and think it's like basically a load of shit. And because of that, that's why all these people are just gonna that's why you wouldn't invest in a Bitcoin miner.
okay. So then let me follow up. Do you think that people? Do you think that someone who's bearish on commercial space travel could invest if they were able to in SpaceX? Do you think there'd be a reason to invest in SpaceX if you thought that commercial space travel would never? And I'm not saying like go out for fun into space like a cruise on the ocean. I'm saying like go from LA to New York in 45 minutes or whatever it would take. Do you think someone who says that would never exist, is there still reason to invest in SpaceX?
Well, I think I don't know. So I think the reason somebody would invest in some Bitcoin mining company or a company like it, similar to your SpaceX example, would be they're developing something that they're using for Bitcoin mining, right? So you kind of went into like the ASIC chip development. So if it's like a company like Intel and they're developing these chips or something like that, then it makes sense for somebody to invest in a company like Intel who's getting into Bitcoin mining, but they're also, making something else that can be, useful in different industries. So I
Right.
think it kind of depends on like the underlying company. And like I said before, it's like I think that, especially with these early on companies, is like it's tough for me to see these companies be diverse in their products and what they offer, because like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, Amazon, Apple, all these guys, they had to focus on something first before they could start taking risk and jumping into everything. It's kind of like the shiny object syndrome, right? You don't want to see a company be like, okay, I'm going to get into Bitcoin mining. All right, Ethereum. Okay, maybe we'll do something else. Maybe we'll, be a crypto lending program, or maybe, we're jumping into all these different things and they're not doing one thing very well. I think I like to see companies like master something first. And I don't think any of these Bitcoin mining companies have really, you know, done that very successfully just yet. I
Well,
think
you got to
they're
wait. You got to wait for Bitfury because, like, Bitfury, they're on their seventh generation of an ASIC mining chip, in-house developed, totally in-house developed. They're working with a they've got a strategic partnership where they're developing their own immersion cooling technologies. Immersion cooling has implications for think of anything that gets hot, and immersion cooling technology could be applied to it. So like to me, when I'm evaluating these mining companies now, Brandon, I'm looking at in-house development of their own proprietary technologies, especially hardware. So things like immersion cooling, things like uh, you know microchip development. That's what I'm looking at as a key factor because those are the things I think even a Bitcoin bear could get behind. But that's just my opinion. And at the end of the day, you don't want to turn people off from what you're doing. And I think the smart investors they're gonna gravitate to these people. I say smart. Look, if you're bearish on Bitcoin, you're probably not that smart. But like a company that can say, yeah, we're a Bitcoin mining company, but we're developing AI technologies that are going to be applied, that could be applied to anything. We're developing immersion cooling technologies that could be applied to a number of industries. I think those are the companies in this Bitcoin mining space that are ultimately going to take off faster than just pure Bitcoin miners. That's just my thesis, not investment advice. But yeah, that's what I've kind of, over the last 2 or 3 months that I've been thinking about this, that's kind of what I've come to as a conclusion.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, all right. Well, I think that's it for me. Do you got anything else?
No, man, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. Well, let's wrap it here. So I am Brandon, and my co-host Dan, that you've heard and or seen. Here, we're both co-founders of the Green Candle Investments. You're listening to us on the Sunday Scaries Stock Talk podcast, where we'll put it out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. We also put it out in a newsletter form, so if you want the written form too, you can check that out at greencandleinvestments.substack.com. And then we'll host a Twitter space to kind of talk about the macro environment Tuesdays night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We also host the State of Bitcoin podcast, where you can find in the same spot. Different feed on podcast players, but same kind of deal. And the newsletter that we put out on Friday, also same newsletter. And yeah, then we host the Bitcoin Happy Hour Twitter Spaces Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time until we're done. So anything else that I miss? Am I getting a little better with that?
I don't know. I think it's still a little choppy.
I
Twitter,
gotta drag
Instagram,
it out. People love my voice.
Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like, subscribe, engage, leave us a review. We love to hear from everybody. So that will do it for this week's
We some
episode.
dogs.
Yeah, that will do it for this week's episode of Sunday Scary Stock Talk. Everybody wish Brandon good luck on his half marathon tomorrow. I personally will not be wishing him good luck. I'd like for him to really feel the pain of not training and signing up idiotically for a race that he's not prepared for. So
You forgot one thing. I'm a fucking dog.
he's a dog. All right, Brandon. Have a good weekend, bud.
All right, man. Later.